Uh-oh.
In her last two fights. Good way hitting him from that way down.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Ahead of what is to be this weekend's flyweight contest in the women's flyweight division, veteran boxing scribe Dan Rafael says, breaking, 3-belt unified women's flyweight champion Marlen Esparza has been stripped for missing weight for her rematch versus Gabriela Alanis on Saturday's Golden Boy Promotion show. She was 114 pounds on her second attempt. 2 pounds over. She had 30 minutes remaining, but there was no shot.
Are you noticing a pattern over there at Golden Boy?
Ryan Garcia was 3 pounds over the contracted weight. Marlen Esparza is 2 pounds over the contracted weight.
Is this deliberate?
Ryan Garcia did say that he was so instructed by none other than Floyd Flayweather to miss the weight, miss it by 3 pounds. He's admitting that that was deliberate ahead of his fight. So is this deliberate ahead of Marlen's?
It could be.
Marlen Esparza and Gabriela Alanis fought each other in July of last year. Because of the controversial outcome, Gabriela's promoter petitioned the WBO to order a rematch, and that appeal, it was granted.
So we've known that they were going to fight again for some time, or at minimum, we've known about the order for some time.
For some months, but some months ago, I heard a rumor that Marlen Esparza wasn't planning on staying at flyweight anyway, that beyond this rematch with Gabriela Alanis, she was going to move up to super flyweight, which begged the question, then why even do it? Why go through with the order? If the whole point of having the rematch is so that you can keep your WBO title, why do it?
You're going to vacate it anyway.
If you win, even if you win, in better fashion than you did the first time out, you're not going to hang on to it, you're going to keep it. So for all the months lost on this second fight, on this rematch, she might as well have dropped it then and moved up to Superfly.
It's pointless now.
Just to end up coming in 2 pounds over, effectively forfeiting all of your alphabet titles.
You should have just moved up last year.
It's clear now that she needed to. Coming in 2 pounds over, was Marlen even trying to make the weight? Or was she so inspired based on what happened with her Golden Boy Promotion stablemate last weekend, Ryan Garcia? Did she see that and tell herself, what am I going to kill myself to make the weight for? Ryan didn't have to, and look at how well he performed. I'm going to do the same thing.
Is that what happened?
Subject to some speculation, one thing is clear. Marlen Esparza is no longer a defending champion going into this rematch this weekend. She's not this division's unified WBC, WBA, or WBO champion anymore, and is now so ejected from the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list per the rules that govern it, that no fighter absent of a world title is allowed to maintain a rank. The list is only for winners and only for champions, and she's not a champion anymore. You need to be in possession of a belt or belts just to be considered much less ranked. And if you lose yours on the scale before the fight even happens,
you're out.
As that may constitute an unfair advantage. That here you have Gabriela Alanis, who did what she had to do to make the weight, but you didn't.
So you may not be as depleted the night of.
The Ring IQ pound-for-pound list does not reward or gloss over what are such unprofessional business practices. And whether this was all preordained, predetermined, or Marlen just can't get down there anymore, it all means the same thing. She's not a champion going into this fight, so she's ejected from the list. Someone else will step up to take her place. It could be two-division champion Tina Ruprecht,
Of Germany.
Argentina's own unified champion at light flyweight Evelyn Bermudez, who's set to be defending her titles very soon, the United Kingdom's own Ellie Scotney,
Of Catfish.
currently reigns as both Ring Magazine, IBF, and WBO champion at Super Bantamweight, having beaten two champions.
Shernika Johnson of New Zealand and Sigaline Lafarve of La France.
I will make that determination later on this weekend as to who is most deserving to be ranked amongst the best pound-for-pound fighters in the sport, in the world. But for the time being, what you need to know is Marlen is out.
Not gonna look over that.
If she beats Gabriela Alaniz or if Gabriela beats her, it won't get either fighter ranked on this list because neither fighter is a champion going into it. These bylaws are in place intended to maintain the sanctity and structure of the list, protecting its integrity and acting as a safeguard against these kinds of situations and shenanigans, because in some instances, that's what they are. That's what they were when Ryan Garcia deliberately decided not to make the weight last weekend. That's what they could be this one.
Not gonna gloss over that.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, it was announced earlier this week that Adrian Broner will face Blair Cobbs in a welterweight clash as the main event of a Don King promoted show June 7th in Florida. Also on the card, Noel Mikaelian, newly crowned WBC Cruiserweight champion, will defend his title against Canada's own Ryan Rozicki.
Fighter who we've talked about several times here on this channel. Hard puncher, made for television.
I'll be honest with you. I have absolutely no interest in an Adrian Broner versus Blair Cobbs fight. It's a pointless fight that doesn't accent anything or any particular trajectory in any direction. Whatever marquee value Adrian Broner used to have has all but dissipated in recent years.
He's a journeyman.
Blair Cobbs, who used to fight under the Golden Boy Promotions banner, very recently signed to Don King Promotions, and that's what this accents, as well as serving as confirmation that Noel Gavor, otherwise known as Noel Mikaelian, WBC Cruiserweight champion, I guess he's got something going on with Don King too.
I wondered about that.
Whether or not he was a Don King Promotions fighter moving forward, it being that he very recently took on and took out Don King's then Cruiserweight champion, Lunga Makabu. He stopped him.
Knocked him out.
And the way these deals are usually structured for a fighter like Noel Gavor, who wasn't with a major promotional outfit, for you to get your crack at the apple, it's going to come with strings attached. Thus, I question whether or not Noel Gavor would continue to fight under Don King Promotions' banner, and it appears he's going to, sporting a professional record of 27 wins with 2 losses, no draws, 12 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 29 professional bouts. Noel Gavor is best described as experienced,
Yes.
capable, and durable.
Can take a punch. That's why he's never been knocked out.
Been in there with some formidable fighters, lost a split decision to Poland's own Krzysztof Glowacki, and gave then champion Maris Briedis of Latvia all he could handle in the World Boxing Super Series some years ago. Some years later, he sees himself crowned WBC champion.
A defending champion in a division of which there are 4 champions. He's just one.
With a tough assignment in front of him, Ryan Rozicki, who sports a professional record of 20 wins with 1 loss, no draws, 19 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 21 professional bouts, is capable and durable in his own right. He took on Oscar Rivas up there at Bridgerweight for what was the inaugural Bridgerweight title, and he left a lasting impression on me because he let it all hang out.
No, did he?
Oscar Rivas, an Olympian who used to campaign as a full-fledged heavyweight, landed his best punches, gave his best shots to Ryan Rozicki, and Ryan was able to endure. He was able to hang tough and land punches of his own, which impressed me because up until that point, Ryan had never boxed at that level before. He was a late replacement is what he was.
He was standing in for Bryant Jennings, who pulled out at the last minute.
Moved up in weight for the fight because Ryan is a cruiserweight. He moved up to Bridgerweight at the very last minute and gave Oscar Rivas all he could handle. And even though he didn't win,
Gave a fantastic account of himself.
fought 7 times since then, having rebounded off that unanimous decision loss.
He's currently promoted by 3 Lions Promotions, a small Canadian-based promotional outfit north of the border. But this fight that he's about to to have here in America is promoted by Don King, and he needs to keep his wits about him.
Currently, he's on a 7-fight winning streak, having knocked out his last 5 opponents. 7-fight winning streak, 5-fight knockout streak.
And about as ready as he's gonna be.
Having fought 4 times last year. 4 times. He's been busy, he's been active, he's been sharp, and he has seen action in the last 12 months.
Can he beat Noel Gavor?
Can he knock him out? That's hard to say, because he might need to, but the problem is Noel Gavor's never been knocked out, and he's been in there with some really good fighters, big punchers. Having last seen action in November of last year, opposite the ring then champion Lunga Makabu, who he stopped in just 1 round.
Lunga's always been chinny.
Lunga, a familiar face, a familiar name at these weights, who was stopped by Tony Bellew, stopped again by Badu Jack, and stopped again more recently by Noel Gavor. Lunga Makabu, a very strong puncher who could never take a punch.
That's who Noel Gavor won the title from.
Noel will have a younger and more durable customer in front of him very soon in Ryan Rozicki, and for me and my money, this shouldn't be on the undercard. This should be the main event.
Things are gonna get crazy.
Within a round, because both of these guys can punch and both of these guys can take a punch. Though Noel Gavor does have the added advantage that because he's the house fighter in this, so long as it's competitive and so long as he finishes this fight on his feet, he might get a home-cooked decision. That's not saying that he needs one, but it's there.
If he does.
Thus, if you're Ryan Rozicki and you've got to travel south of the border, all the way down there to Florida for this opportunity, you got to take it out of the judge's hands. You have to try to. It's the only way!
Brian! He's a bitch. Wilder's a big bitch. Like, yo, shut up, bro. You's a punk. Like, simple as that. Get the fuck out of here.
Do you think he beats Zhilei Zhang?
Nah, I don't. I think Chinaman gonna knock him the fuck out. I think Chinaman gonna... Once Chinaman touches bitch ass chin, he go to sleep.
Is that the way it is? Is that the way it happens when Deontay Wilder faces Zhilei Zhang? Is as soon as Zhang touches that chin with that big left hand, is Wilder going to crumble? Is he going to go out?
Out,
you know,
out.
Jarrell Big Baby Miller, for all of his faults and all the criticisms levied against him, he still has spirit, and that's what that heated tirade shows.
Still got fire in the belly, even though he's coming off a loss, the first one of his career.
There's still fight left in him. A lot of fight left in him. And he still wants to make a splash. He's big enough to do that. He still wants to make a statement. He's got a fight of his own.
The Andy Ruiz fight.
What's noticeable is that he hasn't changed as a result of suffering that first professional loss to Daniel Dubois late last year. He still is who he was. He's still got fight left in him, whereas there are questions about Deontay Wilder. What version of him stands before us here today? Deontay was quoted as saying, they, the Saudis, said, we want the monster back. We want the killer back. We want the man who speaks like that.
See, even they notice it.
He's pacified, or he seems that way. Some speculate that transformative spiritual journey that he took with psychedelic mushrooms, ayahuasca, may have extinguished whatever remaining fire he had in his belly, though myself, I think that fire was extinguished long before he went on that spiritual journey. I think Wilder losing to Tyson Fury in their second meeting, their second fight, I don't think he's ever been the same after that, because that's the last thing that he expected.
It's not the mushrooms.
It's the beating that he took at the hands of Tyson Fury in their second fight, and the subsequent beating that followed in the third. And all of that predates him taking any portobello, shiitake, trippy mushrooms.
Whatever.
Jarrell Miller thinks Deontay Wilder is a bitch. Jarrell Miller thinks that Zhilei Zhang is going to crush him.
Those two have never gotten along. Something about
Some pussy.
Jarrell Miller and Deontay Wilder fucking the same broad. I think that Jarrell fucked her first.
Then what the hell is he so mad about?
It's not the point. The point is that you'll notice Jarrell Miller still has spirit, fighting spirit, whereas many would say that Deontay Wilder's fighting spirit has left him.
He's got a very dangerous man and a very big man, a strong puncher and a well-schooled amateur, a well-schooled boxer in front of him in Zhilei Zhang. And they're roughly the same age, Zhang and Wilder. They're both in their late 30s, though I don't think Zhang has as much wear and tear as Deontay, because Deontay's been in the pros a lot longer. He's had something like 8 or 9 surgeries to the same arm over the years.
The surgeries, the beatings, the knockdowns, and the knockouts.
That he fought Joseph Parker late last year, who he was widely favored to beat by many, and for 36 minutes, he couldn't pull the trigger. He couldn't find his right hand, and you could argue that some bit of it was strategy from Joseph Parker.
Some of it.
Something told me ahead of the fight, which I discussed in several live streams, that Joseph Parker, in many ways, is a better fighter than many of the fighters that Deontay Wilder has fought, save Tyson Fury, that Joseph is a better fighter than most any fighter that Wilder has knocked out. A former champion like himself with a granite chin who can box and punch.
Bend at the waist and knees to make himself a small target for the taller Deontay Wilder, who's got 2 left feet, no jab,
no coordination, no cardio, and all he's really got is a big right hand. But in the heavyweight division, you're almost always 1 punch away from being knocked out, so that's not saying much. That the Parker fight could prove to be a difficult fight for Deontay in spite of the perception that Deontay should knock him out.
I thought that he would.
What I thought was Wilder's probably going to lose every single fucking round up until he lands that right hand. But in the fight we saw, he did lose every single round, but he never found it.
Nope.
He never found his right hand. The right moment to let it go. He didn't want to pull the trigger.
He's pacified.
So some of it is that Parker is a better fighter than he's used to fighting, but some of it is also that Wilder's not the same guy that he was before Fury beat him.
Or before the ayahuasca.
Splitting hairs at this point, and this is who Eddie Hearn chose to be the captain of Team Matchroom in the Matchroom versus Queensberry tournament that Wilder accepted.
Is it that he finally wised up and realized that he needs to work with a real outfit, a real promoter? Or is it that Wilder mentally has checked out? Because he's always hated Eddie Hearn, and I'm not convinced that's changed.
Then why is he working with him?
Because he's given up.
Psychologically, he is defeated. Spiritually, he's still in that place where Tyson Fury beat the fight out of him. So much so, go in there, get completely outworked for 36 minutes by Joseph Parker. He's working with Eddie Hearn now.
I'm not saying that he shouldn't.
I'm saying it's such a sharp deviation for Deontay Wilder, who he's working with, and the decorum, where the fight is taking place. He's out of his comfort zone. Some people, you take them out of their comfort zone, and they grow from it. Others shrink.
I think we saw Deontay Wilder shrink late last year.
Beauty of boxing is that you are always 1 fight away from either your worst performance or your best. In this Zhilei Zhang fight that he's about to have, he can turn it all around if he can knock that guy out. Because even though Zhang's coming off a loss, he's still perceived as a credible threat. A dangerous fighter for Deontay Wilder, who is also coming off a loss to the same guy. Wilder can change public perception by stopping that guy. The question is, will he?
Jarrell Miller doesn't think so.
Jarrell Miller thinks Deontay's a bitch, and as soon as Zhilei Zhang lays a glove on him, he's gonna shatter, he's gonna crumble.
Many are viewing the Zhang fight as the last gasp for what could be the long-awaited Anthony Joshua showdown.
One we were supposed to get if Wilder hadn't have lost last year to Parker. This fight is on its last legs, but I'll tell you what.
What?
In light of what Jarrell Miller said, I wouldn't mind seeing Wilder versus Miller if Wilder wins.
We'll see.